Okay, welcome to another War of Rights map briefing. Today we're taking a look at another Contention map. And for this one we have Limestone Bridge, which is really talking about the Burnside Bridge. So we are back near Union Spawn, which you'll probably recognize this from a skirmish map. This is Pry House, and moving out of here, we're going to take a look and find the 6 flag locations, or the 6 flag pole locations. Remember, in Contention, the game, or the idea is to capture and raise your flag and defend it for a certain period of time, and if you do, it costs the other side a morale stage. So in no particular order, because the spawn order is random and it doesn't repeat, we have one that is just out in the middle of open field near the USA already. You can see others off in the distance, but let's just stay with the ones that are somewhat closer to the Union spawn. The active point right now, and this one is it's kind of an interesting one in that it's on the downside of this slope with fences around it, with the trees over here. Anyways, there's a lot going on there. The third is actually kind of the on-ramp to the Burnside Bridge, and you got the Burnside Sycamore there. The fourth is right here. So again, we're looking at the bridge. That's the fourth. The fifth is the one we saw out in that field earlier, and it is right below us. So that's Union already. That's the one we already saw. That's CSA already. CSA spawn, I believe, is over there, further than those buildings. And the 6th and final point of contention is this one right here in the middle of those buildings. So unlike some other Contention maps, which kind of just meld together a bunch of skirmish maps we already know, that really doesn't happen too much on this one. I mean, there's the Pry House map, and then there's like the very little bit that the units start on for the Burnside Bridge skirmish map, but this is a lot of new real estate for War of Rights. So as you can imagine, this is, again, being closer to CSA spawn, this is one that, if the CSA can get themselves dug in here, it ain't too bad. Arty's not really going to be able to help them. Also, the Union already off in that distance, unless they've preset all the ranges for this. I would think that those would be some very difficult shots, especially coordinating around infantry. But the obvious, I guess you can kind of talk about it in terms of obvious routes of attack. Right, where don't you want to go? You probably don't want to go through the open field if you can avoid it, right? So we have fairly open fields here, here, and I would say that this is also fairly open, right? Fairly open. And, orchards do a little bit, but you would imagine that if you wanted to attack this point and you weren't holding it, you're going to want to come through here. And so as the ones who have capped this point, you need to think about, I would probably recommend, if you can keep enough people together, is to try to turn this into your own fort. It's got tons of concealment. It's got fencing around it. It's not so big, and it's mostly covered by open ground. So I think if you could probably get 2 companies in there, if not more, I think it would do a pretty good job at least alerting you to where the fighting is happening, and maybe being able to interdict just about all of it. These moves through here, unless, and we're getting close to actually, out of bounds is a ways back here. You can come on a very dank flank, right? But you can't do it invisibly. You can get concealment once you're in the corner, and you can try to roll up on the backside. That takes quite a bit of time, and I'm not sure the reward is all that great. If the defenders here can dig in and they can just rotate, right, while you're running around, even if they don't see it, they can just rotate to the backside of this. When I've played this one, this T-junction right here is really critical for reasons you can imagine, right? If you're holding the fence, you're getting cover for it, and then if you're kind of forcing the enemy to funnel themselves down the road, then you can shoot them, right? If you're holding on this side, you can shoot back in that direction. It also allows you to kind of peekaboo over the road and shoot folks. So I found that that's also a pretty good spot to post up. So I think that those two areas would be ideal for defending that. A lot of these, I just kind of got to shrug my shoulders and say, hope that you get there first. And like this one, right? So I think you can see where you would try to defend it from, right? So this is obviously close enough to defend it. You can give yourself soft cover. It's going to be hard to roll up on you, but it's also hard to get a lot of cover, right? Your arty is, assuming it's your arty, is your arty. Now the weather's going to greet us. But we're not going to have that stop us. So we can see that we're out of bounds here. I believe we're still in bounds on this road. Yeah, so then this would be the other point you'd want to defend, or the other set of fences you'd want to defend. You're not that far apart, so you can provide aid to one another. And it's just hard to roll up on you from anywhere you can't see. And these batteries are close, man. I don't know, we'll get our yardstick out, but that feels closer than Pry Ford. Anyhow, and like they're sizable. It's not like 2-gun batteries. So I would expect a lot of skirmishing traffic through here anyways, people hunting for skirmishing and out-of-line tickets. And I guess the way I feel about that point is pretty much the way I feel about this point. You can get in the arty, the caissons. Yeah, there's a little bit of rock and cover here. You can see that there are subtle defilades. It is a different story back here. I always like if I can attack through it. I like the idea of the corn for concealment and then a fence for cover, and that can do a lot of defending here. And then if you wanted to post up on the road, you could be in a almost triangle pattern with your arty, I guess, being maybe a fourth side, almost a square. And it can make it quite difficult to attack. I'd hate to defend, though, looking into the corn. And I think that this is where you're probably most vulnerable to attack. You can get very close to the point, largely unseen, and you can always run the flags around to try to confuse other folks. So what you would do to defend that is you can get in the defilade around this point. You can then also play off on the roads. You can use the fixed caissons. You could use the mobile caissons as well. And you can use the snake fence over here if you're expecting a big push through the corn. You're all fairly close at this point, probably within about 200 yards or so of each other. So in more fights, it's easy sprinting and mutual aid assistance. And that probably removes the easiest, the most forward way or straight way method of attacking that point. So that was that. The lime, I think we can go down to Burnside's Bridge. We did one back there. We did two over there. Yeah, there is the old active point here that I thought was interesting. I still think it's interesting. Oh, that's right, and we didn't do that point over there either. So maybe the map's not as big as I think it is. But again, you can see the corn and the fence, so I'd hate having to have to defend on this side. So I'd probably want some sort of backup. And the backup is really simple, right? If you can get in this snake fence, this part of this snake fence, I probably wouldn't want to be even in these trees, because here the concealment's also blocking your view of who's coming at you. But if you do win the foot race and you think that you have support on your way, you could think about turning this into your own fort. You have clumps of rocks back here. It ain't much, but it's something. You can get skirmishers here, and then just be ready to... It's probably going to get bloody in that corner. You can't really move, I mean, unless you're really not paying attention. And people really don't pay attention, but I think pushing down through here, you should be seen. It doesn't mean you will be, but like you should be seen. But I guess if nobody's looking and you make it through here, you can roll up on the back side of that. And so if you do hold this position, use the left alt key when you're reloading every once in a while, or just take a look over here and see if you see like the silhouettes of men in flags that aren't yours moving over there. You might want to rotate, and it's easy enough to deal with. Right, you can get in the snake fence as well, or if you're sure it's mostly all over there, you just rotate to this side of the fence and force him to come and get you, and then you can spread out friendlies around the rocks that we mentioned, and then if the attack is coming from there, you can have others back up in this tree. So I still think that one's interesting because it is on the downhill, which means you can get attacked from high ground pretty easily. So you got to keep your scouts out, keep an eye on what's going on in chat. Fourth point, yeah, I think that the way you you defend this one. I mean, you probably don't want to be out in the open field, especially when you can get attacked through the corn and they're going to run up on you real quick. Perhaps you think about this stone wall, which I don't love, but I think yet again turning this area, it's almost a triangle, lots of concealment, quite a bit of cover. You can supplement it with other things, but once you cap that point, you don't have to stand on it. You can try to get the other side to show their cards and then shoot them up when they do. Obviously, you have the log pile there, and a few other supporting pieces. As you probably know from Hale's counterattack, these little tiny hay bales are more formidable than you would think, especially when you are kneeling behind them. So that is, I think that's the fourth point. This is the bridge. I mean, what do you do with this? Now there is the stone wall here, right? And so I'm not sure how many men can fit on this side of the bridge, if in fact it's easy to hop over. But it's a bit weird, and that, right, it continues all the way down, and this continues down for a ways. And so you can I think I would say this is pretty easy to attack through because you got a lot of concealment. You're probably going to expect it, right? If I mean, if you're holding this and you're expecting a counterattack, like you don't see him coming through the opening, pretty open, can't go because, okay, I would say that's fair to say that you can't go. I actually, one thing I did not test, and I'm in spectator for, I did not test where and what you could wade here. I'm not really worried about that, and so probably the main avenue of attack for the folks who haven't capped the point is to try to work their way through here. I think that's probably going to be slow going, and you can use the Limestone Bridge as some cover and some concealment. You probably also see them, and then you can spill out here and shoot them down. You can use the fences here. You can turn the hay bales on them. Again, when you're kneeling behind them, it feels like it's some pretty strong cover. And if it's not the oldest trick in the book, it's got to be one of the oldest tricks in the book. Just stand behind it, and then when you hear they're here, just come up and shoot them, and it should be defensible enough. All right, and I think the last point we can take a look at, and then we can wrap this video, is the one. Did we do the one in Union already? Yeah, I guess we did. Yeah, counting to 6 has never been my strong suit, so that was all 6 of them. This is the Limestone Bridge Contention map. Again, I like it because it's opening up parts of the battlefield that we don't get a whole lot of skirmish play on, and it's not all the same thing, right? It's got some variations, got some buildings, got quite a bit of open ground, but it's also got traversable ground through the corn, some undulations, a lot of arty that's pretty close to one another. So it should be an interesting time. I've played it a few times. It's okay. Again, Contention is, I'd like to think that it's growing in popularity, and I kind of hope that it continues to, but that's the map. If you had no idea what was on the map, those are your 6 points of contention. Again, since they do not repeat, try to keep track as you're going through. I know it's different in first person view, but try to keep track of what could come up, and then where the kind of pivot points are, the most defensible points, in case you're the first one on point and you have to get it capped and then get it defended.